Hey guys, welcome back to SUP'S Garage. On this video, I'm gonna be showing you how to install an LS engine on your 95 OBS. And this should be pretty similar to the 94 to 88 models and also 96 to 98 if I'm not mistaken. There might be some differences on the years, but you should get a pretty clear idea on how to do this on your own by watching this video. And once I start getting the LS engine into the OBS, I'll definitely give you more information as far as the sensors and harness goes. But for now, I'm gonna be removing the grille, the bumper, and the core support to be able to make it a lot easier to get the engine and transmission out of the truck now, and to be able to get this engine and transmission to slip right in to make it fit a lot easier. So, let's get started. All right, obviously before starting to remove anything on the truck, you wanna make sure you disconnect your battery. Therefore, we don't run into any risks of shorting any wires or possibly damaging anything. So go ahead and do that first. All right, so the first thing we're gonna do is remove the bolts that are holding down the grille, which on mine is gonna have one on both left and right side. Here's the driver's side. And as you can see here, here's the passenger side. All right, next I'm gonna be removing the 4 screws that's holding the bottom headlight on both sides, starting off with the driver's side. Go ahead and disconnect the connections that are holding the bulbs. You should be able just to twist them out. This one here was already off because it looks pretty worn out. And now do the same thing for the passenger side. And of course, disconnect these as well. All right, and since we're already on the passenger side, I'm gonna go ahead and disconnect the grille from this bottom plastic piece. As you can see here, this is kind of a clip that holds the grille down. All you have to do to remove this piece from the grille is lift up here on this tab, not too hard because you don't want to break it. Once you've done that, you're just gonna pull the grille out and it should slide out from that clip. And since we've already removed it from the bottom plastic piece, go ahead and disconnect this bulb, therefore you don't pull on the wires. And as you can see, there's the piece there. All we gotta do is twist and pull the bulb out. All right, now we're gonna do the exact same steps on the driver's side. Starting off with the same clip, we're just gonna pull up and pull the grille forward. And go ahead and tuck in your bulbs. Therefore, when we remove the grille, it doesn't pull on those either. All right, now we're gonna remove the corner bulb just like we did the other side. And just like we did before, all we're gonna do is twist and pull the bulb out. There's one more clip in the front, but mine wasn't connected. So at this point, the grille can easily be removed, but I'll show you in case yours is connected, what that clip looks like. On this clip, all you have to do, if it was inserted, it would be latching onto this clip here. And all you would have to do is push down on this clip and then be able to pull the grille completely off this plastic piece. All right, now at this point, we can carefully remove the grille completely off the truck. All right, next I'm gonna be removing the bottom plastic piece that the grille was latched onto, and it's only held by a couple of screws. I'm actually missing the one in the middle, but I have 2 on each side that I'm gonna have to remove. Starting on the driver's side. Now same for the passenger side. All right, now we can go ahead and remove this one out of the way as well. All right, at this point, once you remove the grille and the bottom piece that's connected to the grille, we shouldn't have to remove the headlights or the harness on the bottom. But there is gonna be a ground we're gonna have to disconnect on the passenger side. If you follow this wire here, that's going in from the bottom of the core support, on my truck it leads to this ground here, which honestly, now that I'm looking at it, needs to be ground a lot better. But I've already disconnected my ground, so this is the only wire you're gonna have to disconnect from the passenger side. Now going on to the driver's side, back here tucked in the corner, you should have 2 connections. The one I'm holding here in my hand, and if you follow the green wire here, there's the other connection. And it's gonna be pretty simple how to disconnect these. For this back one, just pull up on this clip and pull back, and it'll come out. And as far as the bigger one goes, you can see right here where my finger's at. If you push down and pull back, this will disconnect as well. And as you can see here, these are the only 2 connections that's connecting everything that's attached to the core support. So at this point, there's nothing electrical left that we need to disattach. All right, so at this point, I'm gonna disconnect my AC lines. Now, obviously make sure you do this correctly because you obviously don't want the Freon just to escape. And also you don't wanna get this stuff on you. In my case, my system's already empty, so I shouldn't have any problems removing mine. Just try to be a little gentle with it when you start off because these lines can be pretty easy to damage. Go ahead and remove the bottom one as well. Now I'm gonna go ahead and cover these with a Ziploc bag and a zip tie to make sure nothing gets inside of any of these tubes. All right, next we're gonna disconnect the cable for the hood latch. And if you look towards the back, all we gotta do is pull this out, just wiggle it a little bit and it'll come out. And as you can see, there's a metal tab in the back. If you just pull that out a little bit with the screwdriver, you should be able to slide the cable out. I bend it a little open with the screwdriver, but it'll be pretty easy to put back and be able to bend it back in. All right, now once you've done that, you can just pull the cable out of the way. And as you can see here, it's got a slot through the core support. You're just gonna pull it out from the back. All right, so the next thing I'm gonna do is disconnect anything connecting to the radiator. Starting off with the top part, which is the hose that connects to the reservoir. Then you're gonna have your top transmission line and the bottom transmission line as well. Also, I've already got all my coolant out by disconnecting the main hose from the water pump. And as far as the driver's side goes, just disconnect the main hose that connects to the top of the radiator. All right, next I'll be removing these 3 bolts here because I gotta get this main wire out of the way because right now it's underneath this plate. So when I take the core support off, it's gonna be pulling on this wire. Now yours might not have that, so if you don't, you can skip this step and just pull this wire out and leave it on the side. Now simply just pull the plate off and now you should be able to pull the wire out of the way. All right, next we're gonna start removing the bolts that are holding down the core support onto the truck. Starting off with the driver's side, this top bolt here, and we're gonna do the same thing on the passenger side. All right, now the one that goes to the passenger side. All right, since I'm already on the passenger side, there's gonna be a bolt right towards the center of the core support, and you're gonna remove it from both passenger and driver's side. But on my driver's side, it's already missing. So I don't have to worry about that side. So I only got to worry on this side on mine. All right, again, since we're already on the passenger side, I'm gonna go ahead and take care of the bolts that are connecting the core support from the inner fender well. And as you can see, these are the 3 bolts we're gonna have to remove. This one here, the center one, and the one on the very right. You're gonna do the exact same thing for the driver's side. All right, and on to the driver's side. All right, so we still got these bolts right here on the very bottom on both driver and passenger side. But to be honest with you, it'd be a lot easier if we remove this bumper completely first, and then we'll have full access to those bolts. Because either way, we're gonna have to remove this bumper out of the way. All right, on the bumper, as far as the driver's side goes, you're gonna remove this bolt here on top. As you can see, mine's already missing. And on the bottom of that same bracket, we're gonna remove the bottom bolt here. And after that, we're gonna remove the bolts that are holding down the center bracket on both driver and passenger side. And you should have a total of 3 bolts on both sides for those. I still got to get the frame a little fixed before I put the outer bracket, so mine's actually missing on this side. So I only have to remove the 3 bolts that are holding down the center bracket. All right, and now we can completely remove the front bumper. Okay, since it looks like this bracket's gonna be in the way, I'm gonna go ahead and remove this side. And if you have one on your passenger side, go ahead and remove that one as well. All right, now we can go ahead and remove this bolt here on the driver's side, bottom corner. All right, next we got to remove the body mounts, I believe they're called, which you're gonna have 2 on the very bottom of the core support. You can see the bottom of the mount here, and you can see the bolt on top. And also, as you can see, there's gonna be the nut on the bottom. All right, so unfortunately I didn't record the passenger side, but you get the idea. It's the same concept, just like the driver's side. Remove the bolt, push the bolt up, take the bottom pieces out along with the nut, and that's pretty much it. All right, and continue by removing the last bolt on the bottom passenger side. All right, now we're able to completely remove the core support from the truck. I'm gonna try my best to angle the core support where those lines can easily go through the hole on the passenger side. Again, you just gotta be careful to angle the core support where you don't damage these lines. Okay, so it took some time to wiggle left and right, but eventually it got pretty easy and it just came out. And I was able to bend the hoses just slightly, not damaging them, to be able to maneuver them out of the hole. And one of the things I did forget to mention, if you still have your canister connected to your line, don't forget to disconnect it. All right guys, so now it's time to disconnect all the wiring from the engine itself. I'm gonna start off all on the top, and once I'm done with that, I'm gonna go ahead and go towards the bottom and disconnect anything from the transmission side as well. And I did put some tape on the wires that I'm gonna be using once the new engine's in. You got your temperature sensor here that's located on the driver's side on the front of the head. Here towards the back, I got this white wire here that should be going to my tachometer. It's gonna be the one connected on the top of the coil, right next to the pink wire. And make sure you tape the pink wire as well. And you can't see this one back here very well, but this is my oil pressure sensor. I'm definitely gonna be using that on the new engine. As of right now, I don't think I need anything else as far as the top of the engine goes. Pretty sure I got some more wires towards the transmission, but we'll wait on that for now. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove the air filter, therefore I have more access to disconnect anything I need to disconnect on the top. Start off by disconnecting all these sensors on top. Now do the ones on the side. And most of them are gonna have just a simple clip we've been removing, just pull up and pull out. Next, I'm gonna disconnect the ones on the AC. For this one, you just need to use a screwdriver and do one side at a time. All right, now we're gonna disconnect the temperature sensor that's located on top of the intake. Pull the clip and pull back. There's also gonna be a ground on the AC bracket that I gotta remove. Go ahead and disconnect the connection to the alternator. Now I don't need to disconnect this one just yet, but I'm gonna go ahead and do so because this one's gonna go in the other alternator on the other engine. Go ahead and disconnect your temperature sensor that's on the driver's side front head. Got to get this bolt out to get this ground removed from this bracket. All right, now we can start pulling the harness to the passenger side. All right, now you can disconnect the wiring for this sensor here. Mine was already missing the clip, so it was easy to just pull off. Go ahead and disconnect the connections to your coil, and it's best to do them at the same time. You got a clip on each side. All right, and towards the bottom of your distributor, you have two more connections you're gonna have to disconnect. I'm gonna start off with the back one first, then the front one here. As you can see, they're both disconnected now. And then go ahead and disconnect your oil pressure sensor in the very back, like so. All right, now I wasn't able to show you this one very well because this ground is connected on the back of the passenger side head, but make sure you disconnect those, otherwise when you pull this engine out, it's gonna be pulling on those grounds. Okay, now I'm gonna go ahead and disconnect my heater hoses, starting with the one that's connected to the water pump. And then obviously just keep in mind, you're probably gonna have a little bit more coolant come out of these hoses. The other heater hose I'm disconnecting from back here on the intake. You're just gonna take the clamp off and pull back on the hose like we did the front one. All right, next we're just gonna disconnect our brake booster hose. And all I'm gonna do to do that is tilt left and right until it pulls out, like so. Disconnect your throttle cables and your cruise control. And for mine, all I gotta do is pull forward and it comes right out. And as far as my throttle cable goes, I just have this wire holding it down and it comes right off. All right, next I'm gonna disconnect my fuel line, and just keep in mind you might have a little bit of pressure in there, so watch out for your eyes. Mine have already been loosened, so I can loosen them by hand. Just simply pull back and do the same thing for the other one. And then just pull it out. All right, next I'm gonna be removing the cables completely. I'm gonna be using a screwdriver, one side at a time. I'm just gonna push in, hold it, and then push it on the other side, and this should come right out. I'm gonna do the same for this one on the bottom. Only difference is the tab's on top and the other one's on the bottom. I'm gonna push in, hold it, and then do the same for the bottom side. All right, next we're gonna go ahead and disconnect our AC lines held down by this one bolt here, and this is just gonna be towards the rear of the compressor. And just be sure you put something in here to make sure that no debris or dirt gets inside. I'm gonna be using a Ziploc bag like I did on the other lines for this side. All right, and on the driver's side, I'm gonna go ahead and start removing the header bolts, and I have 6 in total, 2 in the front, 2 in the center, and 2 in the rear. All right, and go ahead and remove the 6 bolts holding down the passenger header as well. Now we're gonna have to get the dipstick out of the way in order to get the passenger side header off. So we just gotta remove this bolt here that's holding down the dipstick. Once you remove that bolt, we could just simply pull up on the dipstick and get it out the way. All right, at this point, we got everything removed from the top side, and we're getting really close to being able to remove the engine. I advise you to pull the harness from the passenger side and go ahead and leave it sitting right here in the center. Therefore, when you get to the point of pulling the engine out, nothing's pulling on it. But now at this point, we're gonna go on the bottom side of the truck and go ahead and completely remove the headers on both driver's side and passenger side. All right, I'm gonna be starting on the driver's side first. Just gotta remove these 3 bolts. All right, on the passenger side, it's gonna be 3 bolts as well, but I'm not gonna be able to get this one on camera because it's a lot tighter on this side. All right, so I was able to remove the passenger side headers from the top of the engine and the driver's side easily from the bottom. The driver's side gave me a lot more room just to go straight down and pull it out. And as you can see, the passenger side, that was not gonna be possible unless I removed the rest of the exhaust piece, which I gotta do anyway. But at least now I have full access to the rest of the sensors on the motor and also removing the power cable going to the starter. All right, now I'm just gonna continue by removing the O2 sensor on the passenger side. All right, now I'm gonna continue removing the rest of the exhaust. All right, and since I'm already back here towards the rear of the transmission, I'm gonna go ahead and disconnect this sensor here. And the way you disconnect that is just like the ones we've done earlier. You're just gonna pull on one side first, then the other side, and then pull out. All right, and as far as your neutral safety switch, you're gonna have 2 plugs you're gonna have to remove. And usually these are pretty hard if you've never removed them before. This neutral safety switch is new on my truck. It's just gonna be as easy as pulling the tab and pulling them out. But again, if yours are still the original neutral safety switch, usually these have a little bit of glue, and chances are you might damage the neutral safety switch when removing yours. And since I'm already down here, I'm gonna go ahead and disconnect this linkage here that connects my cable. And of course, once you remove the nut, just wiggle this out and it'll come right off. You got this back bracket here that it sits on. All you're gonna do is pull this back and it'll come out of the slot. All right, and then you got this one here towards the passenger side. Now mine's already unclipped because I already squeezed it out to show you how to get this one out, because this one can be a little hard to remove sometimes. As you can see, there's the arrow on it. It's actually placed in this direction. And what you do to get this one out is, as you can see, the arrow is pointing towards this tab here. All I did was squeeze the sides, as you can see there on the right side, how it's pulling out. As soon as I squeezed, I was able to pop it off and get it out the way. All right, now we can remove the rest of what's left of the harness. Starting here on the bottom here, just disconnect this sensor. And this one here, you're just gonna squeeze on the sides and pull out. Now we have to remove the little wire here on this little nut here. And after that, we'll be removing the big wire here that's connected to this side here. And I'm gonna go ahead and put some tape on this wire here, because I'm pretty sure I'm gonna be using it for the starter on the other engine, as well as the big one we removed earlier. All right, now go ahead and remove these wires from this little container here that protects the wires from the engine, because if you don't, it's gonna be pulling on these two wires as you pull the engine out. All right, now go ahead and disconnect your power steering hose. One of them will have a nut on it, and the other one is just a pressure hose that I'm planning just to cut here to tie into the power steering from the LS engine. All right, now I'm gonna be removing the transmission mount. It's gonna be held down by 2 bolts on top, and the bracket that it mounts onto, you can see here at the bottom, it's only held down by 1 bolt. So at this point, the transmission is already loose. All we have to do is worry about the motor mounts in the front, because the transmission is just sitting on this mount at this point. All right, real quick guys, before I get to the front motor mounts, I just wanted to show you the other side of my power steering hose. All I did was cut it off. Here's the side with threads. We're not cutting nothing off of this hose, but here's the other one I cut off, which we should simply be able to connect to the power steering on the LS engine. And as you can see, I already got the bolts to the motor mounts removed on the driver's side and on the passenger side. And for those, it's gonna be pretty simple to remove. All it is a long bolt with the nut at the very end of it. You're just gonna remove the nut and then push out the bolt for the motor mount itself. All right, now we can finally remove the engine from the truck. I'm using a grade A bolt to hold it from the side into one of the holes for the headers. And I got one on each side. The only reason I have the towel there is because I don't want it to scrape up the valve cover too much. I also have a jack holding the transmission to make it easier to slide out. And also before I slide it out, I'm gonna insert this piece here. So pretty much once you slide this out, the drive shaft will slide out the transmission, and then I'll be putting that little piece that I just showed you to prevent any of the transmission fluid to come out. All right guys, and that's gonna end part 1 of the LS swap video. If you wanna continue watching part 2, just click here on the right side. But if you're new to the channel, feel free to hit that like button for me and subscribe if you like watching videos like this. And feel free to share my videos to help grow this channel and to help others out there that are trying to do an LS swap as well. But like always, don't forget, God loves every single one of you guys. God bless you guys, and we'll see you on the next video.